Alright, hey everybody, it's Ninjani, and today I'm talking about Deathwish, and it's mostly about Swiftblade, this skill tree right here. And, I find that a lot of people want to play this class like a modified Dark Runner, with a whole lot of points in Battle Rage and a few in Swiftblade and then Shadowplay. But this build is going to have 9 points in Swiftblade, and 7 in Shadowplay, and only 4 in Battle Rage. And so first off, I'm going to talk about just a skill overview. I'm going to go over each of the skills, and I'm going to have little timestamps in the on the bottom where you can switch around if you know about all the skills. And then I'm going to talk about CC combos and your DPS combos and animation canceling. And then we're going to talk about some strategy in PvP. So this is mostly a PvP build. Okay. So first off, we're going to talk about the most important thing to a Swiftblade class, which is this buff called Instinct. And so your Blade Flurry attack, this attacks three times. You just go one, two, three. And if you hit someone with it, we're going to attack this guy right now. Oh, he's going to charge. Ooh. Okay. If you hit someone with it, they get a stack of Instinct, which is this little guy right here. It lasts for 2.5 seconds. And if you have a stack of Instinct, your damage abilities, which are going to be these three right here, I'll go over them more in a little bit. Your damage abilities are going to do 50% more damage, and if you have two, it can stack up to 2 times. You can potentially get double your damage on your damaging abilities for Swiftblade if you have 2 stacks of Instinct. So one thing to note as well is a lot of your Swiftblade attacks, including Blade Flurry, it hits twice for each attack, or some attacks hit with both your right hand and your left hand weapon. So you have to take that into account when you're calculating how much damage you're going to be doing. This class can actually do a ton of damage. It's really good. But you have to think about that. You have to use both your right hand and left hand weapons. So I just have basic explorer's gear on right now, so I can fight these little mobs and show you how it works. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to run either dagger or katana probably, and then axe in your left hand. And the reason you go axe in your left hand is that uh, your attack speed is only affected by your right hand weapon. So axe has the highest or the lowest attack speed out of the one-handed weapons and does the most damage. So you're going to want to run axe on your left hand. And I run dagger because I think it feels better, but you could run sword or katana or even double axe if you wanted that extra damage and you weren't so concerned about your attack speed. Okay, so we have the instinct down. Now we're going to talk about the rest of his abilities. Blink, this one is going to let you basically just teleport. Boop. And this is the ancestral version where you teleport somewhere and you go invisible. But the other version, I'll put it on right now. With the other version, you can teleport somewhere. I'll do it on this guy right here. You can teleport and then teleport back to where you started. I find that the ancestral version is better for PvP because as you go invisible right next to them or wherever you're going, you can it takes away their target lock on you, which is really actually pretty useful. And you can even do little cheesy strats where you can blink and then stealth right after, and a lot of people won't recognize it. There is a window where they can see you, but a lot of people just aren't paying attention or focused on their own skills. So then the next one we're going to go over is Sinister Strike. And this one is really good because this is the key to animation canceling for your damaging abilities. So your three damaging abilities for Sinister Strike, which are going to be your core abilities, are Relentless Assault, right here, Sinister Strike, and Twin Shadow Slash. Sinister Strike, this is the ancestral version where it hits with your left hand weapon, but you can also go the one where it hits with your right hand weapon. It doesn't really matter that much. But this just is a straight damaging ability. So we're just going to go up to this guy and use it. This is what it looks like. It just does damage. Relentless Assault, this one attacks 4 times. And on the first, second, and fourth attack, both the left hand and the right hand weapon attack it. So we're going to go up here, we're going to press it. That's what it looks like. And then finally, Twin Shadow Slash, it's actually a range, you can hit someone at range with it, you can dash to them with it. So this one, each attack happens twice, and I'm about to die here. Each attack happens twice, and you can actually use it twice. So the first attack here, both the left hand and right hand weapon hit, and then we can use it again, and both the left hand and left hand and right hand weapon hit again. So those are your damaging abilities, and we're going to talk a little more about the animation canceling with them a little later on. But basically how it works is use Relentless Assault, Sinister Strike, and Twin Shadow Slash really fast together, and they cancel each other's animations. So it looks like this. Okay. Now if you were really paying attention on that one, you'd realize that I hit Twin Shadow Slash 4 times. And that's what this skill Reverberate does. Reverberate is one of the really cool skills in Swiftblade because there's so many applications for it. If you use a Swiftblade ability, you can cast Reverberate within 3 seconds and it'll duplicate it. You can cast it again. So I can use that for Blink. I can Blink, well, that didn't work. You can use it for any of these abilities basically. So you can, so say you use Twin Shadow Slash, you can cast it again. Oh, there's an airship going overhead, I think. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about is Entangle and Blade Blast. Entangle and Blade Blast are unique in that they cannot be evaded, parried, or blocked. So they're really reliable abilities. Entangle's going to throw a dagger and it slows someone. And then if they get slowed, Blade Blast is going to, and you hit them with Blade Blast snares slowed targets for 5 seconds. Blade Blast also puts a stack of instinct on the person that you hit with it. So we'll see that right here. I'm going to use them together. This is Entangle, and then Blade Blast. There you go. And he is snared. He couldn't charge right there. Now it's also important to note that Blink is really good in that if you hit someone with Blink, it puts a stack of instinct on them. If you hit someone with Blink and they have a stack of instinct on them, it resets the cooldowns for your damaging abilities. So I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to use Entangle and Blade Blast to get close to this guy. And then I'm going to do my damaging combo, Blink on him, and do it again. Here we go. Here, I'm going to use all these. Oh, it killed him. But here you go. See all my cooldowns for those abilities? I'm going to get a stack of Instinct with my Blade Flurry. And I'm going to Blink on top of him, and all my cooldowns are up. Okay, so that's really useful for the whole combo. Now the last one in the Swiftblade we're going to talk about is this thing called Dust Shroud. And Dust Shroud, I'll just show it to you. This is what it does. You put this little circle on the ground, and as long as you're in the circle, you go invisible. This is kind of a cheesy ability. It's not all that practical, but it's really fun against mages, mostly. Because you can place your Dust Shroud down, walk out of it, and cast invisibility really fast. There's a window where they can see you, but you'd be surprised. Tons of people are going to cast a lot of their damaging abilities on this little circle. And they're not even going to hit you. They're not going to hit you at all. So I'll show you how it looks. You can go here, and you can just walk away. You could even be in here, and then blink with your Ancestral Blink ability, and then stealth. And that one really messes with people. So next we're going to talk about Shadow Play. Swiftblade is more of your damage and mobility. It's a great skill tree. Shadow Play is really for initiation, mostly. So in Shadow Play, we're going to, stealth is almost back up. If you use stealth, you start stacking this thing called Bloodlust. It's a buff. And if you hit someone with Overwhelm right here, or Pin Down, and you have Bloodlust on you, it staggers them for 1 second each of those abilities. And stagger's basically a stun. And they can't do anything. So you're going to go up to this, so we'll come up to this guy right here. And I'm going to use Poison Weapons right here. It gives me a little damage buff. Overwhelm. Pin Down, which is this one, which is going to stagger him. And then I can do all sorts of stuff. Because they're staggered, I can get better CC off, crowd control. I'm just going to kill this guy real quick. But there's a whole lot you can do from right there. And we'll talk more about the CC combos, like the cross skill combos, for all the trees once we finish just the basic skill overview. So next, pin down inflicts bleed on a target. And if you have the level set 7 points in Shadowplay, your bleed, your poison and bleeding effects, the duration is increased by 70%. So basically you're going to have it the whole fight. So if I use pin down on someone, I get the bleed, and if you come over here to the Swiftblade abilities, Relentless Assault does 16% additional damage to bleeding targets. Well, I guess and then Sinister Strike does 13% additional damage to bleeding targets. So if you get that pin down right off the get-go with your stealth initiation, you actually get a pretty decent damage buff. In the last patch, it was more like 40% damage buff. So in this patch, it's not as important, but it's still useful. Also, if they're poisoned, pin down is going to inflict silence on them for 3 seconds, which is really good because if you use this and then get your damage combo off pretty quick, Twin Shadow Slash silences silenced targets. So you can chain the silence over and over against mages. It's one of the reasons this build is so good against mages, is it kind of locks them down. Twin Shadow Slash also disables the bow of targets affected by instinct for 3 seconds. So if you get up on an archer really quick and use your damage combo with Twin Shadow Slash, their bow abilities, which is basically all their abilities from what I understand, are disabled. It's really, really useful. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about stealth. Stealth is pretty. It's a really fun ability for Shadowplay. I really enjoy it. Basically, you just go invisible, and you start building up. Up here, we're going to look up here on the top left, and it's going to start telling us our Bloodthirst level. And you can stack it up to 10 times. If you hit someone or you damage them, you lose 2 stacks of Bloodthirst every second. And so that's one of the reasons you build up Bloodthirst, and then you do your combo: Poison Weapons, Overwhelm, Pin Down, and then you CC them and do your damage combo. Because you don't have Bloodthirst throughout the whole fight, only in the initiation. The next one we're going to talk about is Shadow Smite, and I use Shadow Smite a little different from what other people are going to use it for. Shadow Smite is really useful that it inflicts shackle on poison targets for 5.7 seconds. And this is really useful for PvP mostly against people who are heavy battle rage in their skill sets. And if they're a little tanky, you might not kill them right away. This build it can go really well against melee, but it's probably the hardest matchup. Fighting against like a Dark Runner, for example, it's just a difficult fight. But you can do it. So if you do your whole combo and they're not dead, you're going to Shadow Smite them, and it's going to inflict shackle, and they're not going to be able to use any of their melee abilities for a few seconds, which is really good. It can also trip stun targets, which is useful for another ability we're going to talk about in a second. Now, Throw Dagger, this is really important that you get it actually, because it is a super effective ability against mages. Not because of the damage, and it does decrease the other person's attack speed and increase their cast time. But what's really important is that it cancels Warding Light, Warding Mist, Conversion Shield, Protective Wings, Insulating Lens, and Mana Barrier, and grants immunity to these effects for 3 seconds. And what this does is it basically says any defensive abilities that a mage is stacking on themselves, it cancels them and makes them immune to them for a few seconds, which gives you this opportunity to kill them, to take away their tankiness. And also, well, it slows poison targets. So the poison's actually pretty important to get off at the beginning of the fight, even if you don't initiate with stealth, because a lot of your abilities are going to have CC related to poison. Okay, now we're going to go to Battle Rage. I only take 4 points in Battle Rage, and a lot of people are going to look at this and go, probably, wow, that seems kind of crazy because you're missing out on behind enemy lines, Tiger Strike, Precision Strike. If you have trouble with melee, why don't you get, Battle Focus, you get better parry rate and stuff. But I mostly use Battle Rage just for the CC. And so first we're going to start off with Charge. Charge just charges towards an enemy. And it's going to snare them for 5 seconds, or 2.5 seconds in PvP. Now this also trips stunned targets. So we're going to go up to this guy, and I'm just going to charge him. Here we go. Charge. and he's going to be snared for 5 seconds, 2.5 in PvP. Now, this is really useful as a gap closer, but also if you are stealthed and you have Bloodthirst, and you're gonna, this is one of the things. Say we're like, hold on. Stealth also ends the fight for mobs, which is really nice. So we're gonna come up to this guy and we're gonna use poison weapons, overwhelm, and pin down. That's a stagger, right? And we're gonna use this ability right here called hammer toss. Now hammer toss hurls a big, heavy, slow hammer at someone's current location. And if it hits them, it stuns them for 2.5 seconds. The problem with hammer toss is, at least on this server, I play on Archeage server, the desync is difficult, so that if you throw it hammer toss at somebody and they're moving around, you're almost never going to hit. But if you throw hammer toss while they're CC'd, while they're staggered, stunned, or snared, it always hits. So we're going to use poison weapons, overwhelm, and pin down, and we're going to get that stagger from pin down. And then we're going to throw hammer, and throw hammer's always going to hit there. Now we can build up instinct with blade flurry and charge and trip him. Well, it didn't work because I was going slowly there, but I'll show it to you a little faster. Here we go. Or when the cooldown comes up, at least. So if you use hammer toss that way, out of pin down, and then you charge him, it's going to trip the person. So this is a good way to chain your CC. You could do like, I'm stealthed, I'm going to come up to this guy, I'm going to poison weapon, overwhelm, pin down, hammer toss, here we go, hammer toss, blade flurry, charge, he's tripped, and then I have more stuff. And see, because you chain the CC, you get that stack of instinct from blade flurry in the middle of that CC combo. So part of the strategy in PvP is you want to chain your CC while building up instinct, and then do your whole damage combo. So next we're going to talk about, this is a really good ability, it's called Whirlwind Slash. And if basically, I hardly ever, it can spin up to 3 times and do damage, but I hardly ever use the 3 spins. The first spin is what you really want, because it trips slow targets for 3 seconds. And you have a couple slows here. So we're going to come down here. Remember Entangle from Swiftblade? This slows them. And Throw Dagger slows them if they're poisoned. So say you're going against a mage and you want to get Throw Dagger off. What you're going to do is you're going to stealth up to them, if you can. And you're going to go Poison Weapons, Overwhelm Pin Down, Throw Dagger, cancels other CC, and then you Whirlwind Slash and it's going to trip them. Well, I'll do it faster here in a second. So this is another one of those things you can chain CC with. You want to use your Whirlwind Slash to trip them, and then by the time your CC, usually you can use 2 of your CCs, 2 of your crowd control chain abilities, and then in that time get your whole damage combo off. And then you have 1 more, right? You have 1 more trip, stun, or snare or something, where you can use it tactically to get away, or if they're a ranged person, you can just keep pressing them and keep using Blade Flurry to try to kill them. This last ability is called Bond Breaker. And Bond Breaker basically just says if you're snared and you use it, you're no longer snared. And this is actually, I prefer this just because I'm always getting snared. And if you're snared, you actually can't use a lot of your damage abilities as Swiftblade. It's kind of a big counter. You can't Blade Blast if you're snared. You can't Twin Shadow Slash if you're snared. You can Relentless Assault. And you can Sinister Strike. But you can't Blade Flurry when you're snared either. You can't get that third. You can get the first 2. But see how the third one teleports you forward? You can't get that third attack if you're snared. And also one thing to note is that Blade Flurry actually teleports you behind the target. So say you're up against someone, and in a lot of abilities, if you're not facing the target, you can't cast them. So you say you're up against somebody, and you're fighting them, and I'm Blade Flurrying, and then, man, I'm behind them. It doesn't really work on mobs because they turn immediately. But against people, it's really actually an effective tool to kind of get that advantage. Now, some people are going to say, why not take... And then there's also Backdrop. I forgot to talk about Backdrop. Backdrop in this build is just mobility. You can Backdrop. You can even, if you're facing somebody and you want to go towards them, you can flip your camera around and then Backdrop, and you'll go right toward them. It's a pretty cool mobility. And I find that if I don't have drop back, I run out of mobility pretty quickly. during a fight. So I like to take it. Now you're gonna if you like Dark Runner and stuff, you're gonna ask, why not take Precision Strike? Why not take Sunder Earth? All this stuff. Sunder Earth can be good, but the truth of the matter is, it just doesn't make the cut. Precision Strike is good if you have a two-hander, but because I'm running Dagger on my main hand, Precision Strike doesn't matter what you have on your left hand. So you're actually doing the lowest amount of Precision Strike damage you could possibly do in this build if you take Precision Strike. So it's not that good in my experience. I actually started running it when I first started playing, and then I realized it's better to go more Swiftblade and less Battle Rage. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about, we already kind of talked about our CC combos, but we're going to talk about them a little bit more. You can chain CCs a whole lot here. So say like Entangle into Whirlwind Slash. One of the cool things about this build is that there's so many combos, there's so many possibilities that it really comes down to your skill. You don't really get to the end of the fight and go, wow, I couldn't have won that. It was unfair. I mean, maybe if someone's really high gear score and they like two-shot you, but against someone who's about the same gear score, even like within 2,000 or 3,000, maybe 2,500 gear score of you, you can really see that there's always something you can do. So say you want to get close to somebody, you don't have stealth, you can't stealth up on them. I would Entangle, Blade Blast, Whirlwind Slash, and it's going to trip them. Right? So then I'm going to Hammer Toss, charge, trip them again. Oh, it didn't work. I think partially I don't have very high to hit right now because my melee attack isn't that high because I have all my gear off. But basically that would trip them, that charge. So you can chain CC really easily. And then we really already talked about a lot about CC. So now we're going to go off to the real bread and butter is how do you get this? How do you get your heavy damage off, right? So basically what you're going to want to do in PvP is you're going to want to gap close, chain your CC, build up a stack of instinct like this. Say we're going to see what we did last time. We're going to go here. We have a stack of well, I didn't hit him. Hold on. That's one thing you have to know is that Blade Blast, you actually have to hit them. It's not like this is one of those abilities you have to be facing them and then you just dash in that direction. So we're going to go Entangle, Blade Blast, they have a stack of Instinct. We're going to Whirlwind Slash. And then we're going to do our damage combo, which is Relentless Assault, Sinister Strike, Twin Shadow Slash. From there, we're going to blink on top of the target. It's going to reset our cooldowns on these abilities, and we're going to do it again. This is going to kill most people really easily. And that's basically the whole build. Okay, so for this fight, I'm scouting out Friedrich Island to turn in because I have a pack, and I've left the pack behind so I can go a little faster. And right up here, I'm stealthed, and my stealth is about to wear off. So I'm going to use the Ancestral Blink that makes you go invisible when you blink. And I use it twice. I use my Reverberate to get it again. And so I'm just trying to buy myself a little more time so they don't see me. And I'm coming up, and I come around the corner, and this guy has my pack. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open with Blade Blast, and then do Blade Flurry to get 2 stacks of Instinct. Now normally, if you have Blink, you only want to get 1 stack of Instinct before starting your damage combo, because you're going to blink on top of them, getting you that second stack. And if you try to get that second stack right away, you give the other person an opportunity to get away. So here we go. Because I have no blink, I'm going to use Blade Flurry. And then I'm going to do my damage combo, and he's going to die. And this is only half the potential damage combo. Now this guy was about 5,200 gear score, and I'm sitting at 5,600 at the time of this video. So let's watch the cooldown resets a little more closely this time, okay? So I'm doing Blade Flurry, and then this is Relentless Assault. Right here you can see the cooldown went off, and then immediately Sinister Strike goes off during that cooldown. And then through Sinister Strike, while the animation is still going, you see that dash? That's Twin Shadow Slash. And I use it twice and it kills him. So this is less than half of the potential damage output of this combo. And you see how fast it is? So if I had that blink and this guy had survived, I would have blinked on top of him and tried to do it again. And If I had blinked on top of him and he had, I don't know, teleported away or backdropped away, I would have used charge probably to get close to him and then finish the combo. But you see just how much damage this combo can do. And you don't necessarily have to be stealthed for it to work. Okay, so for this fight, my stealth is on cooldown, as you can see, so I run up and hide behind this rock, which is a surprisingly effective way to hide in this game. Especially if we're not paying super close attention. So now I'm going to stealth in, and I'm going to check it out. Now this person has 48k or 44k gear score, and this is the person from the other video, has about 52. So I'm going to go after him first. And I'm going to open with my stealth combo here. I'm going to poison weapons, overwhelm, right? And then I'm going to pin down. And overwhelm and pin down are going to stagger him for 1 second each, so he can't do anything while this is going on. Now I used entangle, which is going to slow him, and whirlwind slash, which trips him. And this secures me the first CC. And now I'm using blade flurry to get that first stack of instinct. So I have the first stack of instinct, and I do my damage combo, and he dies. So now I'm turning my attention to the other guy. And while I was doing this, I didn't even notice that there was a green here. This guy is, he's going to kill me after this. So then I come up to Helenara, and honestly, this initiation could have been better. I was pretty slow here. So I Blade Blast, get that first stack of Instinct, and then the second one. And now I blink on top of her to reset my cooldowns, and I kill her. Now I was not expecting a green to purple me and kill me here, but in context, later I realized that he was trying to help them with something. And now we're friends. But so yeah. But this is one of the examples of the really good stealth initiations you can do with this class. You can combo with you can get your poison off and do like poison weapons, overwhelm, pin down. And then from there you can even throw hammer. If you throw hammer from pin down and they're staggered, throw hammer is always going to hit. And then you can charge to trip them. That's one of the best ones. And honestly, here I shouldn't have used entangle to trip him earlier. Let's go back. Okay, here we go. I shouldn't have used entangle. I should have saved entangle so I could do an entangle blade blast slow combo, because this guy's gonna have poison on him, but I'm not gonna have poison for the next person. So here I should have thrown dagger into whirlwind, and it would have tripped him all the same. And then from there I could have targeted this person, entangle blade blast, and they'd be snared. And it all worked out fine, but it would have been better if I had done that. Yeah. And then here, I was not expecting him to attack me, but I could have easily gotten away if I had blade blasted into a blink. I think blink was up at that point. Yeah, I had blink up. I could have blade blasted, backdropped. I just wasn't really paying attention at that point. It startled me. Anyways, okay, so this is a quick duel between me and this guy Arethin. And when I did this, I actually didn't know who I was dueling. I thought I was doing against Kalani, but that's kind of besides the point. See, here he gets his Battle Hymn off, which gives him a big buff. And I go in and try to kill him, but this is one of the weaknesses of the class. If someone kites you and you don't use your mobility right, you're gonna die. So I could have won this fight if at that point, let's go back. If at this point I had blinked in front of where he was going instead of behind where he was going. See, I blink here, but he's already over there. I should have blinked like over here somewhere, you know, and then I could have gotten my twin shadow slash off, and that would have killed him. But yeah, so you have to use your mobility right here. And against a mage who's really good at kiting, it's going to be a tough fight if you don't get the first jump and the first CC and everything. Probably from the beginning, if I had, when I had him at first, let's see. So he's snared right now, but he's going to that wears off. If while he was snared, I had thrown a hammer or something and continued to chain CC him, I would have won this fight pretty easily. Yeah, so chain CC and use your mobility correctly is really important for this class. Okay, for this fight, I'm fighting this guy named Dylan or something. I can't quite see. And this is the guy who killed me on the island from the earlier fight. Let's see how this goes. So here, I got the snare on him, but he jumped away at the same time. So I'm going to blink on top of him and throw hammer to get the stun off. Yeah. And there's a few things that went wrong for me in this fight. So the first thing that went wrong, that I did wrong, was I blinked on top and then did this, right? But you see he still has his warding light and what is this called? It's the other mage defensive. What I should have done is I should have thrown dagger here. If I had done that, I would have gotten a lot more damage off. And then, once all that stuff wore off, we're going to see, during my damage combo, he's Oromancy. Oromancy, one of the passes is you have a 1% chance to become immune to all damage for a certain amount of time. He basically immuned my entire damage. Which actually happens a lot if you're playing this class. It's a very common occurrence because you're having so many little attacks that all add up, and so many of your attacks hit twice that if you're against a person with Oromancy, it's not like they're going to win, but it's definitely they have an advantage in the fight because there's a pretty strong chance that if their immune proc is going to go off. And honestly, if I was better at the game and I was paying more attention, once his immune proc went off, I would have done something different. I would have stopped my combo. I'm not sure what I would have done actually. I probably would have backdropped into stealth and then re-engaged really, really soon with Overwhelm if I was really playing well. And the second thing that happened here, or that was the second thing. Yeah. Okay, so this is another fight against Dylan. And this one was actually a pretty cool fight. Here we go. Now he gets all his buffs off, right? And again, I'm going to use charge here. And then I try to hammer toss, but he backdrops away. And then I'm going to use blade blast then to close the gap and then do this whole damage combo, right? But if you go back, here we go. See that? He immune procced again. You're hitting so many times with this combo that the immune proc actually happens a lot. So then I get snared, and I use, this is a twin shadow slash what you just saw. I twin shadow slashed him to close the distance, and I used it twice, and then I used reverberate. So if someone's trying to kite you, that's actually a really good tool. I got a snare. I could have broken the snare earlier. Where was I? Here? I could have used my bond breaker earlier, but then I used it then. And then I used twin shadow slash 4 times. And then he goes away, so I stealth. I'm in blink, I'm in the blink stealth. So one of the things you can do, if you're in combat, you can't sprint, right? So Blade Flurry actually moves a lot faster than anybody else. So I'd use Blade Flurry a safe distance away, and then I stealthed. And I'm going to try to come around behind him. And he comes out of stealth with God's Whip. And he's trying to, I almost got hit there. That was pretty crazy. And from here on, the fight was basically won. Yeah. So then, once I went in, I had my Bloodlust. So I just do my Stealth Initiation combo, Poison Weapon, Overwhelm, Pin Down, and then I used Entangle. I see my Throw Dagger isn't up right now. I use Entangle and then Whirlwind Slash and then Twin Shadow Slash to finish it off. And yeah, this was a pretty cool fight. One of the things you really have to consider when you're playing Swiftblade or Deathwish or like something heavy Swiftblade is that you kind of got to just work with what you got. You have so many skills and so many skills that can combo together, especially for Deathwish, that you always just kind of have to be like assessing what you have and keep on going forward, you know? And sometimes the best answer is you just forego your combo and just Twin Shadow Slash a bunch of times. Twin Shadow Slash does an insane amount of damage. And if you look on the damage it does on the on your skill overview, if you're playing Deathwish, you have to realize that that's the damage from one of the one-handed weapons. So it hits twice. It hits with both handed weapons, right? So that's double that damage it shows you, and then you can use it again. So that's 4 times what damage it shows you. And then you also have to realize against a mage, you just use pin down on them, right? So they're silenced. So Twin Shadow Slash, if you keep Twin Shadow Slashing them, they're going to keep on being silenced, and it's going to be really difficult for them to make a comeback. Okay, so in conclusion, if you're in PvP, your priority needs to be getting the first CC off, chaining your CC, using your, getting up a stack of Instinct, probably through Blade Flurry, but also if you close the gap through Blade Blast, it really quickens up the process. And then you want to do your damage combo, and most people will die. And also, one suggestion I would make is you really need to get good at your mobility. This is something I have to work on too. But the more flexible you are with your mobility, the more viable the build is. Because if someone's moving around and getting away or trying to kite you or just like blinks away or teleports or whatever, backdrops, if you can keep up with them, you have a huge advantage. Against mages, keep in mind that pin down into Twin Shadow Slash keeps them silenced. You should keep that silence on them. And against melee, especially Dark Runners, because Dark Runners are everywhere, you need to keep your finger on Shadow Smite. Anyways, thank you for watching, and if you made it through this whole video, I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it, and you'll have a happy night. Bye guys.